Good morning, everybody. That was as much energy as I can muster. And now I'll go back to how I feel inside. It's Fantasy NBA Today. I'm a sleepy bear named Dan Besbris, and he webcamless on this very special live episode is a silhouette shaped like Aaron Bruski. Aaron, good morning to you.
Good morning, good sir. You sound like you need a pick-me-up.
I do need a pick-me-up. I'm glad you mentioned that because just before going on air, a pick-me-up I received when the Hoopball Twitter account received what appeared to be a sexual proposition from a love bot online. And I had to look up the country code of the link that they sent us. It's the website, I'm not making this up, is lovebang.tk. They're not a sponsor of the program. I don't suggest anybody goes there. But TK apparently is the internet country code for Tokelau, a territory in New Zealand. So, yeah, Aaron, the next time you're headed to New Zealand, you got a place to stay.
We're going to have to get Jake Fitzgibbon, our New Zealand correspondent, on the case.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he can figure out if this is real or fake. Because to me, it seems real. Like, this is clearly a real proposition.
Yeah.
She's pleased to meet us, Prince. Yep. And
Prince. Then I forgot. I didn't even see that until
I will be glad to see you here at lovebang.tk.
Prince
/virus.org.
.org. This is, and it was quote retweeted with what appears to be a link to a very old episode of Fantasy NBA Today starring myself and Vince. So I don't know which one of us is the Prince. I'm going to assume him because his name.
Yeah, it's definitely Vince.
It's not me. I'm court jester at best on those programs. But yeah, man, we're on our way. So like, gird your loins, Tokelau. The Hoopball crew is coming.
Did you just say gird your loins?
I sure did. You know where I learned that expression?
I would love to. Please do tell me because I might use that.
Tim Allen, I believe, said it either in a stand-up routine or on an episode of Home Improvement.
I just watched his new show.
He's
got a new show. It's like something of something. I don't know what they call it. It's like the world according to Tim. You know, I could actually see them using that. You know, they just take all the world according to Jim stuff and then cross out the J and put the T in there.
You just take the dot and you turn it into a line. It's very simple. It's like Morse code.
Yeah, and actually, I probably might even be like similar demographics and the old white guy thing.
Yes.
And but yeah, it's weird, man. He plays like this kind of hardcore righty. It's a very political show, or at least this one episode was. And I did not expect it to be as forward. You know, he's pretty out there with some like the discrimination stuff, and it's done in a way where it's not distasteful. But it was way more forward than I expected this particular show to be. I expected this show to be as terribly vanilla as you could make a show. And I walked away from that episode saying, that guy's prior racist.
So wonderful news. I actually had to do I didn't have to. We had the option to do a report. And this is like, I'm going way back here. This was when I was 12. And it was Hebrew school, for those that didn't know. And it was like, so I went to Hebrew school for about 2 years, and it was basically 11 and 12, which is the bar mitzvah training years. And then other than that, you kind of just, I didn't have a great experience with it. But we had the opportunity to do a report on anybody who had any ties to Judaism whatsoever. And apparently Tim Allen's abusive father was Jewish. So I thought, well, screw it. I'm going to do a report on Tim Allen, whose real name is Tim Dick, by the way. And I guess he was like kind of abused, and it was he and his mom, and they were on their own and all this stuff. And then he got into drugs much later in life. I think he was dealing them for a while. So he's had a weird life. And now apparently, so wait, this is a show that's newer than the other new show that he had that's like 2 years old, where he's, I forget what it is. He's like a store clerk at an outdoor shop or something like that.
What, did they do Home Improvement 2?
I think basically where instead of doing a show, he was selling outdoor goods.
They're like, you were once known for this show, so we're gonna make you like a subset of that in a new show, like a spin-off. Like you lost your Tim Allen lost his TV show in Home Improvement, and then he had to take a cashier job at a home improvement store, and he lives out the rest of his sad life.
It was called Last Man Standing. Is that the show that you watched?
That is the show that I watched.
Okay, so he has 3 daughters instead of 3 sons, right? It's basically just like bizarro Home Improvement.
Kind of, yeah, maybe. I don't remember the name of it. I saw it on, and I was like, oh, there's that new Tim Allen show. I bet that's terrible. And then I watched it, and I was like, that dude's pretty like racist, I'm sure. That was like my 1, 2, 3 kind of punch that I got from it.
I looked it up just now. So that show actually started in 2011. So it's not even really old anymore. And there's been 120 episodes of it.
What?
Somehow. 120. I'm not kidding you. If you watch the most recent one, apparently it's called My Name is Rob. Thank you to IMDb for filling in the holes on this. It's super. I mean, the whole thing is very weird. I watched a few episodes of it because many of us, I think, have some measure of nostalgia for Home Improvement. Maybe because of Richard Karn. Is that the right name? That's Al Borland, right?
Al Borland. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's his name. And he was among the many terrible hosts for Family Feud.
Yes. Oh, he was brutal. How good is Steve Harvey, though?
Oh, Steve Harvey is the best, and I know that there's going to be a lot of, what is his name, Ray Combs? Who's the original?
Wasn't the original one? Did the original one commit suicide, or was that the second one?
Something like that. And then, so I think Ray Combs might have been the second one, but apparently the first one was the guy that, would almost be like smoking a cigarette, and he would be fondling the ladies, and it was like really, really inappropriate. I'm pretty sure that was the first one. But then they had the second one. I think that might have been Ray Combs, or Ray Combs might have lasted into the 80s when I would see the show live or, not on reruns. But then they went on a string of terrible hosts. Just terrible. And like, did you ever see Louis Anderson?
That's the one I was just about to mention. The Louis Anderson years were a tough one. Shane Mann, by the way, in our chat room says it was Richard Dawson.
That's the one. Thank you, Shane. You're the man.
Yeah, I was just about to ask if you guys had the answer to that one in the chat room. So thank you. This is how we crowdsource our idiotic opening to fantasy.
Well, and then they also had the guy from Seinfeld. What was his name?
Yes, Jay Peterman in the show.
Jay Peterman, yeah. He got a job. They went through like 5 hosts within a year, it felt like.
He did his Jay Peterman personality as the host of the show. I don't have any idea what that guy's actually like.
I think he's exactly like that.
I think he's just Jay Peterman in real life.
Yeah. It was terrible. But then they get Steve Harvey, and I mean, he's really made it a good show again. My wife loves that show. Like, and I'm sitting there. She's like, we have opposite humors. If it's not funny, she thinks it's hilarious. If I think it's funny, she thinks it's stupid.
That's the makings of a perfect marriage, though,
isn't it?
Yes, it is. Have you also noticed, by the way, and this is the last thing on Family Feud before we talk a little bit of basketball, have you noticed now that they've gone out of their way to make the replies on the board, like the official correct answers, they've gone out of their way to make them particularly weird.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they don't have to just put the what the person said. If, that Jay Peterman, the top 5 answers are on the board. And the question is like, name a part of your automobile that breaks down often. And the person buzzes in and says, the radiator. And then they go up to the board and it says radiator / butt cheek. And you're like, why is that even, what does that have to do with anything? They've gone so far out of their way to make it goofy.
Good. You know what? Hey, it's TV, which people are cutting their cords, and the only thing that's on TV nowadays is like Judge Judy and Judge this and Judge that. If you can
Reinhold.
Exactly. Actually, there's not enough Judge Reinhold on TV.
He got arrested.
Did he?
He got arrested by TSA. He was like yelling at him, and he took off his clothes or something weird like that.
Well, that's how most celebrities, they go down. They go to TSA and they can't take it anymore. They just take their clothes off, and that's pretty much the end for them.
Yep, he got Reinholded.
Sure, it wasn't Omer Oshik?
No, I wasn't. I didn't.
Have you ever seen them in the same place together at the same time?
No, I haven't actually.
Oh, I'm just saying.
But that would make for a great buddy cop show. Judge Reinhold and Omer Oshik. Tall Judge Reinhold.
Hey, and you know what? Omer's going to be out of a job pretty soon anyway. So, at the two of them, they should really get into contact, because I think that's like, I smell sitcom. I smell hit.
Omer's sitting on a $40 million nest egg.
He can fund the damn thing.
Yeah, exactly. Let's make Omer the executive producer of this show also.
They could make it Perfect Strangers too.
Oh, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing. And that was the guy who was also like the weird cousin in Step by Step, right?
I was trying to figure out, was it Hackers was on the other day with Angelina Jolie and a kind of who's who of weird 80s actors. But I thought that, and you know what? That was Richard from Short Circuit. I'm sorry.
This is the best.
I know. I was trying to figure it out, but that is a weird movie. And Angelina Jolie, she's hot in it, but she also looks crazy.
Which is, I think, kind of her thing, right?
Yeah, but it's weird. It's in the 80s, so like, it's just weird.
That actor, by the way, is Bronson Pinchot, who played.
He played Balky, or
he was Balky.
Did you remember when Balky was in True Romance?
No.
He was in True Romance. He was doing a bunch of coke. It was just bad. It was bad, Balky. I tell you.
Balky, how the mighty have fallen. Between Balky and Judge Reinhold, it's been a really tough time for America's greatest actors. Although I think Bronson Pinchot is French. Let's talk a little bit of basketball. First things first, Aaron.
Hey, did you have any idea we were going to go into any of those topics?
No, but I mean, I did start the show by talking about what appeared to be a prostitute from Tokelau. So there was really only we could only go up from that point.
Don't let Jake Fitzgibbons do a blurb until he's investigated the situation out there in New Zealand.
Can we get him a comically large magnifying glass for whatever part he does here? So we can do like a picture of him with the magnifying glass really close to his face, looking at something important, and that'll be. We got to get ridiculous new hoop ball profile pictures. That's got to go on the list of top priorities for you.
So are you trying to dress him up like Sherlock Holmes and have him go look for this hooker?
I'm trying to dress him up like Droopy the dog. That's the basis for this costume. If that's another weird reference. All right, listen, you and I date ourselves too much on this program. What's going on in hoop ball, man? Another week in the books.
Oh man, I'm like crying over here right now. Another week in the books. It's it's getting close to Christmas and holiday season. So, I think what we're doing is we're at the same time as we're gearing up, we're kind of gearing down a little bit. I know I am doing some shopping and stuff, but our meetings are kind of full blast. We're working on our statistical engine. So if you're not in the premium membership, you probably don't see some of this stuff, but we have our own stat engine that we've been working on, and it spits out our start sits. It spits out our projections. It's all based on numbers that have been kind of blended with the Bruski 150, as well as the kind of the go forward, the adjustments, if you will, to the statistics. We have enough games under our belt right now to really know some stuff. Even though, this, I didn't get a chance to write this anywhere. This is the time of the year where people are crying in their beer. And yes, that rhymed. It's when they panicked on folks like Nikola Jokic. And then somebody else now owns them. And now they're sad. They're really, really sad. It's kind of like Gorgie Jang last year. I had a guy that kept sending me tweets about Gorgie Jang. Gorgie Jang sucks. You suck, Bruski. It was kind of a variation on that every single time.
Yeah.
And then Gorgie Jang got really good. It was the 20-game thing. There's 20 games that go down, and everybody's, there's a certain group of players that suck for the first 20 games. And then they just go back to where we thought they'd go. And it's really great for some people. And it's really, really, can you imagine if you traded Nikola Jokic?
Can you imagine if you sold him for like a 7th or 8th round pick just to get out from under it?
I want to hear people's stories. I mean, we were aggressive. Like, we didn't halfway this thing. We didn't say, oh, you know, you just hold them in, and hope things get better. We said, go out and pillage.
Yeah.
Pillage.
It's true. You know, that actually deserves a commendation, because it's sort of this is industry at times that does kind of reward those who toe the line, and you did not. You were hammering I will take Jokic off your hands for anything on my roster, and he's back. And you know, last night is actually, Aaron. I mean, we can kind of segue a little bit at some point, but I want to know more about the hoop ball update. But last night he got into foul trouble, and there may be an owner that doesn't realize that and thought, well, he played 19 minutes. What the heck happened? He still, by the way, had an okay line in 19 minutes.
He was still a huge part of their win too. Like, yeah, they got ahead early, and it was on his back more or less. And yeah, so you're about to say here that there's some room to still buy low, because yeah, you're going to see 19 minutes and maybe think, oh, what's the deal? What's the hype? I don't get it. Maybe you didn't read the quote, or maybe the opposing owner didn't read the quote that Michael Malone wants to get him somewhere between 25-30 minutes per night.
Oh, juicy. That is juicy.
Oh God, yeah, that is just, I cannot tell you. I am so stocked with him all over the place, and just to have your second round asset, you know, just kicking at that level, that's a game changing, massive development. He's so good at what's that?
Does that news about playing 25 to 30 minutes make you happy enough for a trip to Tokelau? You
know what? If I had the time, I'd be there already.
Yeah, we all would, man. It's a voyage to Tokelau. We'll do a little documentary on the whole thing. But I mean,
I think they already did that, and it was called The Hangover 2.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's actually not far. Where was that? That was in Thailand, right?
I think it's in the same region of places that Americans don't get taught where geography is, so we don't know where they're at.
It's a strange and nebulous place with giant countries that we don't understand.
It's like on the other side of the world.
Yeah,
over there.
You can't see the other side of the world because you'd have to flip the flat map over, right?
I don't have time for that. I've got to watch my reality TV. You know?
I got to learn about Canada, so the next time we talk to Russ Peddle, we don't sound so silly.
Speaking of hoop ball updates, to kind of get back onto that,
a seamless transition.
I know, right? We have, as seamless as the way you ended your basketball game last night, I might add.
Yeah, somebody pulled the plug on me. That was cool.
Yeah, Dan called a basketball game over at Cal Poly Pomona where they shot 50 free throws in the second half. He failed to mention that.
Oh, it was excruciating. It was what we all go to the arena to see, Aaron, is a free throw exhibition.
Well, we could segue into a conversation about Hacka Jordan, or we could talk about hoop ball. And
I'd rather talk about hoop ball.
Yeah, basically, we right now we're shifting our premium content a little bit because we want our listeners to be able to hear stuff earlier in the night, and so we're playing with that. We're getting our guys ready to host these things on their own. And that's a big development. So you're going to see Jake Cousins on Monday nights. You're going to see Riaz on Tuesday nights. Wednesday nights is Jordan. Thursday nights, John Sill. Friday, kind of have a little bit of a rotating door there. But Eric Ong, who you guys might remember from Baller Mindframe, and then Give Me the Rock. And Give Me the Rock is one of those classic fantasy basketball sites that if you've been watching or playing fantasy for a while, been on the internet for a while, doing the hardcore fantasy basketball thing, that was a site that we all read a long time ago. And so Eric was one of the big pieces there. So we're thrilled to have him on board. He's a good, funny guy. He's going to have a good time with that. The only problem is he's out there in the Philippines where it can rain at a moment's notice, kind of like it rained in California yesterday.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I literally almost spun my car out driving 30 miles an hour. It was, and there I drove past 8 spun out cars, and you could tell that they don't know how to drive in California, but it was a mess. So we're getting that settled so we can then expand the content that we provide. And we're looking at a box score show that will be on the free pod network. And
yes, I've been teasing that one. So I'd love for the listeners to know a little bit more about what's going into that one.
Yes, this is a big deal. You know, we want you guys to have comprehensive content. We want it to be comprehensive on the site in the form of the written word, aka the blurbs, and we also want it to be, you know, comprehensive. You know, as we speak it, we speaketh it to you. And so getting that set up and getting our pod network kind of set up is really the work of the day, and as well as you know, on the back end with the statistical engine, we're trying to get you guys player values a la Basketball Monster, you know, right there on the site. It's really important, and you know, doing that in a way that kind of complements what we do right now. That's going to take us through to the new year, and then we're going to start pushing on the DFS buttons, where we really push on our partnership with Roto Tracker. Talking with John Schifferly last night, it was funny. Schifferly and Panda, I tell them, oh, hey guys, this is, I don't want to take your time up. You know, we'll keep this call to like 30 minutes. We talked for like 2.5 hours. We can't stop talking basketball around here, as well as gaming theory. You know, we're working through the database and kind of how, whether we're talking season-long fantasy leagues or DFS leagues, what kind of patterns can we find in the numbers? How can we, you know, on the premium show, we even talked about this last night a little bit, is statistical modeling and how these things work and how does it relate to giving winning fantasy advice. So we had this conversation deep into the night that was way over my head as far as math goes. You know, I'm a pretty good math guy, but I'm not at their level. So, you know, I was a little fly on the wall at times. But yeah, we're trying to roll all this stuff out starting probably around January 1st, and you know, really slingshot into 2017 with the pod network firing, with the TV stuff firing. And it's really just all about building a comprehensive offering for you guys. You know, the technology is growing. It's getting easier by the day. You know, our team is growing. We're 25 plus deep. And, you know, I feel like we're like a full-fledged dang near news operation at times. And so, yeah, we're really just nailing down a lot of different initiatives. And then come January 1, we're going to start hitting the go button on a lot of it. So I can't personally wait to be doing the box score show at night. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. We got to get that thing. Excuse me. We got to get that thing fired up. What do you think? Do you think that we have the speed? Do we have the efficiency to get the first box score breaking down the Christmas card? Do you think we could squeeze it in that fast?
Whew, I have to talk to my wife about that one. Yeah, because you know what, her birthday is actually Christmas.
Really? No kidding. My wife's
Yes.
birthday is the day before Christmas.
Oh, so they would get along. Yeah, it's and in a Mexican culture, the night before Christmas is a big deal. So
Interesting.
yeah, so it's like, you know, it kind of is like taking two really big things and slamming them together, and then boom, it is this massive event.
Maybe we rethink that effort and break down the games after Christmas, which I think is 27th.
And the schedule for Christmas, I'll have to take a quick look at that, because you know, the Christmas slate is relatively new.
It's only 5 games. It's just the 5 that they run rapid fire throughout the day. Boston is in New York. That's the early game. Warriors-Cavs finals rematch early afternoon on the West Coast.
And you know what happens here? And we'll talk. Yeah, those games are let's see, to cut you off and then finish your sentence for you.
Yeah.
Boston at New York, Golden State at Cleveland. Golden State at Cleveland, that's a massive marquee game. Chicago at San Antonio. That's a decent matchup. Minnesota at Oklahoma City, that at least you have star power. And then the LA versus LA game, where nobody will care. I don't think that either team will give a rat's ass about that game.
That's the classic tree falling in the forest game.
That's the one where everybody's so tired from Christmas stuff that they're just like, screw it. I'm not watching that game.
All hopped up on candy canes and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, you've listened to your... But yeah, you know what I was going to say, though, is the day before is no games.
Yeah, the day after is a lot of games.
So, I mean, yeah, we could absolutely, you know, sneak a break-in special where I show you how to throw a rock through a window and go in and grab stuff.
Where you B&E at all of our premium subscribers' homes.
I know, right? We're just gonna lure you away with the sounds of fantasy basketball, and I'm gonna come in and steal your Xbox. Or you know what? There's a new Nintendo that apparently is a thing that.
Yes, I've heard of it. It has all of the games, or like 150 games built into it. It is. I would have gone out and I would have fought somebody for it if I didn't actually have a regular Nintendo just sitting in my closet. It used to be in the baby's room.
Yeah, I have a Nintendo, and I am just a. I mean, I don't mean to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm the world's best Tetris player, and it's not even close. Like, you could find somebody out there that you think is the best Tetris player. You bring them over, and I will just work them, and it will be ugly, and they'll never want to ever play again.
I challenge everybody to a game of Marble Madness, as long as we're just, like throwing our top Nintendo games out there. I feel like maybe we should have a hoop ball Tecmo Bowl, as it were.
You know what? I got worked on that one. I thought I was good, and then I played some people that actually they would take the players and move them around in Tecmo Bowl 2 and Super Tecmo Bowl, and they would like put like Andre Rise in it, like running back or something. I forget what they were. It was not fair.
Yeah, that's not right.
I got worked. So there's always ringers out there. You got to watch out.
But I think I'm the Marble Madness ringer. I'm pretty confident in that.
I remember, and I loved that game.
A great music too. I actually have 2 Marble Madness musics on my cell phone just to cheer me up when I'm feeling down.
All right, you're a nerd, Dan.
Yep.
That settles it. That just settled it right there. But you did have a great shirt on the other day, so I'm gonna give you a pass.
Yeah, my DuckTales shirt. That's one of my crowning achievements here on these live video feeds. That was Wednesday night.
So to circle the wagons.
Yeah,
maybe we can. We'll see here. I want to wait until our guys are comfortable with the Q&A and the tech, because Google is very finicky with the Hangouts and everything that's going on there. But yeah, after that, I want to start the box score show up, get that going, and that'll be a big deal. And then you guys can help us out in the meantime by liking the show on, what is it, iTunes?
Yeah, that's particularly helpful, and the number of you have done it, so thank you for that. If you
it's like a rate and a review.
Yeah, if you go onto your phone, your mobile device, I guess it could be an iPad too, and you search for the podcast in the podcast app, that's where you got to do it. And you can rate and review the show there. You can actually rate and review the Hoopball Radio app too, which is in the iTunes App Store. That is sort of helpful. Rating and reviewing the podcast is quite helpful. That is again, that's our fuel, because as that gets ratings and moves up the chart, then more people around the globe find it. It grows. We can get sponsorships of it, and we can do more things at Hoopball. And one of those will be the box score breakdown. So maybe Aaron, I don't want to get you in trouble. So maybe we shoot for the 26th, the day after Christmas. I think it's 11 games that day too. So that'll be. People will be salivating. They haven't looked at anything in like 2 days. They're sated. They're filled to the brim with like smoked ham or whatever, and they just want to sit back and listen to you talk about 11 box scores. Let's do it. This is our goal. First show, 26th.
You said sated.
I mean, I want people like, belly busted and thinking, I'm going to sit back, and also I'm going alliterative here. I want the belly-busting Bruski box score breakdown.
Man, that rolls off the tongue. And maybe that could be the name of the show.
The belly-busting Bruski box score breakdown. I've now said it 2 times fast, and that's as many times as I'm doing it. Okay.
Some hoops, eh?
Some hoops, indeed. There weren't that many games yesterday, so we could sort of afford to meander a bit here on the show. But I really, that box score breakdown is going to be awesome. That's the show that's going to also allow this show, Fantasy NBA Today, to become more of a big picture fantasy show where, we'll talk to luminaries from across the fantasy landscape, and we'll be able to spend, for instance, Aaron, as we go through yesterday's card. It's only 5 games, but I would bet my bottom dollar that you and I stumble across something that deserves more attention, whether it's Denver or Phoenix or New York or something, where we, when we're trying to go through 10, 11 box scores on this show and still get to questions in a chat room, which is what's happening here on the live program, and still cover what's happening at hoop ball. There just isn't enough time for that. So you end up sort of blitzing through things that are actually important. And then with you doing a box score show, which is very important, this allows us to dig a little bit deeper on this show, which is also important. So it's kind of you get that two-pronged, you get that double whammy where one show is actually making two shows different and better. And so that's actually really exciting too. I'm looking forward to that. As I said yesterday on a solo show, it's going to create more work for me, but it's going to be worth it because it's going to be good stuff, and it's going to be, the kind of in-depth discussions that that don't exist elsewhere in fantasy podcast world. That type of show doesn't exist yet, and so
you're going to be our Matt Lauer.
That's right. I'm gonna have to like really get into a newsy voice. I got a haircut, by the way, so I'm ready to be a newscaster, but I'm not putting on a tie for this.
And you're not gonna tell everybody that the person that cuts your hair like knew me and Cause.
Oh yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that, but that was amazing. I go to a Magical Supercuts in West LA, where in 3 separate trips, the one gal that cut my hair, her dad played for the Bakersfield Outlaws, which was the name of the minor league team in Bakersfield in the 70s, where I worked. And so we had an Outlaws throwback night, and he brought his whole family up with a bunch of other Outlaws from town. That was amazing. I've been to this Supercuts on a day where I actually ran into a AAA / big league, they call them like 4A guys, for the Cincinnati Reds, who actually played in Bakersfield. His name is Steve Selsky. And then this last trip to this very same Supercuts, the lady that cut my hair, the stylist, she told me she was from Petaluma. And I said, well, I guess I got to play the name game at this point. And I said, do you know Aaron Bruski or somebody named Kaz? I don't even know Kaz's full name. And she goes, I think I've heard of that. And I definitely knew a guy named Kazi. And I thought, well, I mean, it's got to maybe the same. She goes, he ran track. And I said, okay, I think this is it. So then I texted you immediately, and you Facebook stalked, and apparently you guys have like 21 friends in common. So this person actually did know you in high school.
It sounds like she only knew Cause, which now I'm a little bit less enamored with this story. In fact, I actually don't like this story anymore. So I don't want to talk about it anymore.
She said she recognized your name, and when I said it, she was like, oh yeah, I think he was like a couple years older than me. And I thought, well, the pieces are all coming together. But in my mind, I'm thinking there's got to be like more than 25 people in Petaluma, but maybe not.
There's quite a few more than 25. I thought she said something like, yeah, I knew that Aaron Bruski. He was really dreamy.
Yeah. The quote I think was, I knew Aaron Bruski, but I stopped hanging out with him when he made that trip to Tokelau. I'm probably mispronouncing that too.
Yeah, why you gotta diss the good people of Tokelau?
No, Dan? I got no problem with it. The picture of this person from Tokelau, she seems really nice. She seems really nice. It just seems like she'd be cold. I don't know what the temperature's like down there. Can we talk about Indiana, New Orleans for a minute?
Sure, why not? Let's do it.
Aaron, tell me about Buddy Hield. Tell me a story about Buddy Hield.
Okay, Buddy Hield shot 50, 50, 90 in college. That's the story with Buddy Hield. And he did it on like 5 million shot attempts. So yeah, college sucks. But that's Buddy. And you know what? We've been on the Buddy Hield train from the beginning. We've been like, we haven't told you to hang on to him or anything like that, but like, it's weird. He's been outright dissed by certain websites that are like, he's not worth a look. And they'll probably say, next time he does well for a long stretch, it's like, oh yeah, we had him the whole time. No, he's this. I can't tell you guys to go pick him up after this big game. Unfortunately, Tyreek Evans is back in the house. And I think when Tyreek Evans is in the house, everybody else has got to take a seat. And that's going to be unfortunate for Buddy. But say in a month or so, I think then you start looking at him a lot more seriously. And he's also got, if he can do it for 2 to 3 more games, or one, if he does it again next game, I'm going to say to somebody, I'll say, you can stash him if you're, say you got dead weight, you want to take like a 1-game flyer on him. But then from there, we can start to talk. What I was always looking for out of Buddy was constant improvement and really getting a foothold in the rotation. And unfortunately, Langston Galloway and Etwan Moore, Alvin Gentry is playing kind of he's doing the the hot hand or. And it's hard to know what he's doing. And you got Tim Frazier coming back in 7 to 10 days, and that could be the final nail in the coffin for his short-term value. But the fact that he went off, not surprising at all.
That to me is really the only big note from that ball game. Drew Holiday had a nice game. Tyreek Evans on a minute limit right now, but he's sort of ramping it up. Would you stash Tyreek?
Yeah, I was going to say we should stop on him. He's eight cat mustache. He's going to
the graphic. We still don't have it.
I know, isn't that? I'm surprised nobody else has come up with that. Yeah, he's 8 cat mustache. He has an 8 cat mustache. There we go. I think that's better. And in 9 cats, I don't know. In 11 minutes to go, I'm not looking at it right now, but it was 7 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, I believe, and like a steal and a 3 maybe in 11 minutes. That's a classic Tyreek line where he does a lot really quickly. He doesn't know any other way to play. He didn't look that great, but the fact that he's still out there getting those types of numbers is, that's what you're looking for. So in a 9 cat league, I don't think he's a mustache guy, but he's getting close.
Milwaukee almost ran the Bulls out of the gym. Chicago made a sort of a half-cocked comeback effort late in this game, but never really got closer than about 10. Giannis had a nice game. Jabari Parker had a nice game. Matthew Dellavedova almost had a double-double in that one. John Henson, despite, again, kind of an off night, still managed to get his 10 boards and his steal and 2 blocks, so I'm okay with that. And then on the other side, Taj Gibson is the guy that I want to bring up because he's been sort of under the radar trending down lately, and I feel like I'm the only person that said anything about it. He had 19 points on an efficient evening, but he played only 24 minutes. He wasn't part of the comeback, and he hasn't played 30 minutes since that explosion against the Cavs 2.5 weeks ago. That concerns me. I don't know if it's fatigue or what, but I'm starting to think about filing Taj Gibson in the John Lure safety bucket where you can have him and you'll be fine, but there may be something more exciting out there because he has tailed off a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to characterize him. I mean, upside-wise, even if he's playing really well, you have to contend with his injury history and the Tibbs minutes that he's racked up over the years. So I don't know that he would ever crack that like mid-round expectation that makes him kind of a must own or must keep or must, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's the only thing that's making me not worried about Gibson is good old Nikola Mirotic getting his DNP CD last night. And that to me kind of solidified that they don't view him as a future piece. They don't view him as a current piece. And now I do think he'll come out if he plays in his next game. I mean, unless he was benched for something weird like a possible trade that we just don't know about, they do sometimes will bring a guy back that's a rotation guy and say, hey, we didn't play you this game. We're going to come back and play in the next game and get you some shots so you can kind of save face and keep that confidence level high. But long-term wise, Nikola Mirotic does not look like he's a part of the future plans of the Bulls. And so I think with that, then I'm feeling pretty good about keeping Gibson and not worrying about it.
I just wish he could get that darn 30-minute point back. Let's talk a little bit about Portland-Denver. This is actually, to me, the game that I wanted to spend most of our time on in terms of yesterday's box score, outside of the of Buddy Hield. On the Denver side, we saw basically like a hockey lineup change where they got Gary Harris in, they got Nikola Jokic in, they got Wilson Chandler into the starting lineup along with Emmanuel Mudiay and Danilo Gallinari. And I don't feel like, and Aaron, you've been talking about this, nobody was happier than Gallinari of those lineup changes. And he didn't change where he was playing. He remained in the starting lineup, but suddenly 27 points on 13 shots. He got his 8 free throw attempts, and he made all of them. Gary Harris and Nikola Jokic, man, in a starting lineup, they can make a pretty big difference for the guys around them that actually need to touch the basketball.
And then another development there was Emmanuel Mudiay, 3 of 6 shots, 22 minutes. That is exactly where Emmanuel Mudiay should be. No more. He should not be shooting the ball except for when he has to. And I know that sounds harsh, but that's just kind of the way it goes. You know, he's not a good playmaker. He's not a good shooter. You know, he's a physical presence. He can cut into the lane. He can, you know, keep defenses honest because, you know, if you completely leave him alone, he can get by you and do some things. But you have two volume shooters in Gallinari and Chandler. You saw them get off. And then you have Gary Harris, who's, man, 18 points, 4 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 3 trays on 7-11 shooting in his return game for 32 minutes. He went over his minute restriction, and they just didn't care.
Yeah, they needed him. They needed him. We kept talking about it. We kept talking about how badly they need Gary Harris. And for some reason, we kept getting questions about whether or not people should stash Gary Harris. Well, is he really going to find the minutes? Is he really going to find the usage? Yeah, he's going to be out there. They need him badly because he's a defense and team-first guy, and they need 3 of those guys if they're going to pair him up with guys like Gallo and Chandler, who are going to take the basketball and in one case, drive to the rim and get fouled, and in the other case, huck it over 3 defenders. And
the other thing that's notable is first of all, the stories about Nikola Jokic are like deafening coming out of Denver. There has been a clear shift in mentality where the local media and probably the team putting out some of this stuff as well has kind of embraced Jokic now, talked about how he needs to be the centerpiece of the offense where you start through him. It can end with Gallinari. It can end with Chandler. It can even start with those guys, but you have to give Jokic his touches. It does so many good things for the offense, and they did that, and then they blew out the Blazers. It's if they keep this up, everything goes well for them. They start to win a lot of games. They start to play well from a fantasy perspective, and they start to normalize on a night-to-night basis, and that's going to be the most important thing for them going forward is normalizing. And we've seen some winners and losers, and Nurkic was a loser, and he might continue to be a loser. And we might see what happened last year because he's probably not going to take this well. If you're getting Jokic 30 minutes, that means the most he's getting is 18, but they like to play Fareed at center sometimes in order to get him his minutes. So the 5 minutes Nurkic got last night, that is definitely bothersome. And what I would say has happened with him is he started losing his mojo the minute he stopped getting the ball and stopped, with the whole Wilson Chandler and Gallo shooting every time they touch the ball and all the different gunners. I mean, I watched him start to set these screens that were just terrible screens. And it's just because he's not going to get the ball. So he's like, I'll just run up here and stick my foot on the ground and, I'll run over here now and screw this. Which sucks.
Is ridiculous because he's a wide-bodied young man. If he wanted to, he could set some pretty significant screens.
Yeah, he would just slip everything, and it was ugly. And I think he'll come around and he'll be fine. And it would be nice to see Jokic, with his 30 minutes or even 32 minutes, and then Nurkic get 24, 26, 28, just kind of like what we predicted at the beginning of the season because Nurkic deserves to play. He's a good basketball player. He's just kind of dealing with the inconsistencies of an overpopulated team. So I think you hold Nurkic. There's enough upside there to justify a hold. And specifically for, let this normalize here for a second with this particular lineup. Let them get 5 games under their belt and see where Nurkic is after that. Fareed had 11 and 9 with a steal and 2 blocks with the 26 minutes. He could be a late round guy in this new scenario. So I don't think that he's a must drop or somebody that it's hard. I mean, you got to consider him something. He's a late round guy right now, and we'll see where he goes from there. But yeah, there's been winners and losers, and that's the fascinating thing about Denver is kind of figuring out where all the pieces fell. This was also a blowout game, so there might be a little bit of weirdness to this box score. Will Barton, he got back on track with 23 minutes, 15 points, 3 trays, 6 of 6 free throws, a steal and a block. If he could get these 24 minutes, he's going to be in the discussion for late round value. Maybe he could even have some like top 100 upside really in either format because he's not a turnover guy. But that's that's an example of somebody that's been knocked down a peg. Jamal Murray's been knocked down a peg. I think what they're saying is Jameer Nelson is going to keep getting minutes. He had 26 minutes last night, 15 points, 3 assists. I don't think Nelson is worth owning in 12-team leagues, maybe not even in 14-team leagues going forward, because I think eventually Jamal Murray is going to cut into those minutes. And pretty soon we got to see if Moutier gets benched. He had 4 turnovers in 22 minutes last night. That's not good.
Yeah, team only had 15 as a point of reference, and he had 4 of them in I mean, that's like the 3rd fewest minutes of anybody on the roster yesterday, 3rd or 4th. So that, I mean, that's the thing. They really want him to succeed, and I don't know if it's going to happen. But regardless, I will say I'm much more excited about Denver Nuggets basketball lately than I was the first week and a half of the season. And if you're worried at all about Jokic after last night's game, I don't know why you would be. But, 13, 4, and 5 with a 3 on 5 of 6 shooting in foul trouble, where he probably would have played another 3rd chunk of minutes. That is, he was around 19, and you can expect about 50% more than that. If you just do the quick math and add another 50% to those numbers, you're talking about basically 26 and 7. I would go out on a limb, Aaron, and say that's not bad. Not bad.
The stat set is why we pushed him or I pushed him as high as I did in the Bruski 150. And you just don't get a stat set like this. It doesn't come along. I mean, yeah, he could do more in the defensive categories, but he's got all the tools. And we're not even seeing, like, really what they should be doing is running the offense through him as a centerpiece, because he makes good decisions. And anytime you can get the ball down underneath the foul line, it just opens things up. Your 3-point shooters get catch and shoot. I mean, it's really just a phenomenal thing for an offense. And I think they'll get there once they decide they're going to trade somebody like Wilson Chandler. But in the meantime, you just have to deal with these really, really, really good stat lines that aren't fully optimized.
San Antonio Phoenix, the name that jumps out to me is Marquise Chris. He didn't have a great ball game yesterday, but he's actually cleared 30 minutes, 2 consecutive ball games. Does he go the way of the dodo when TJ Warren finally comes back?
It's possible that it's a little too early for Marquise Chris, but what you're seeing is that he's able to get you the steal and the block and the 3, and that's so big in fantasy leagues. The rebounding is an issue. Don't get me wrong. Like, getting 2 rebounds in a game, that you play 31 minutes and you're the power forward, that's not good. And we've seen him disappear in the rebounding category. It almost feels like he's more of a 3 playing at the 4. And then he's really a 4 that might play some at the 5. Yeah, he'll probably bulk up over time, but this rebounding issue, I don't think it's going away. I think he'll be a lighter rebounding guy. I'm trying to think of a comparison, kind of like a Dirk, in the sense that he gets you, that block and that, 5 rebounds, 6 rebounds in a game. But he's built to be able to go get rebounds. So I wonder if maybe there's just a technique issue there that might be able to be addressed, and he can start getting more boards over the course of his career. But yeah, exciting to see the money counting stats. And I just here's the problem: is you're going to see Alex Len come back. You're going to see, as you said, TJ Warren come back. You've got to develop Dragon Bender. A lot of this comes down to, when does Tyson Chandler exit stage left, and then from there, can the Suns thin out in a meaningful way for him? PJ Tucker would be one guy that I could see the Suns trying to deal. He's on a very affordable contract, and there are a number of playoff teams that would love to have his services. So that would open things up. And then Warren he's like a good basketball player, but I also kind of thought when he was going off earlier in the year that it wasn't necessarily the best thing for their team. Like, he might have been doing too much. So I don't know that he's necessarily the answer for the Suns. Throw him in there and give him 30 minutes and things are going to get better for them. I think he's more of a 24-minute guy. So therefore, he probably wouldn't displace Chris too much. But again, Earl Watson, Suns, tinfoil, who knows? I mean,
that's my favorite. That's my favorite part of the show.
Is who knows with those guys. And it's funny is there's like, finally there's stories out there about Ryan McDonough taking heat there. They've got to make moves, so hopefully they're not hands tied which is what happens with teams that may or may not, have their future figured out. The general managers sometimes get their hands tied, and ownership is making all the calls.
Let me ask you about one player on the San Antonio Spurs. I almost jumped this team, but I got to bring up Danny Green because he looks like he's going all Danny Green on everybody again.
We had a great Danny Green question last night in Fantasy NBA Tonight.
What was it? Dare I ask?
What the hell is going on with Danny Green?
Oh yeah, that is the question, right? I mean, it looks like he's turning back into the 2015 pumpkin, Danny Green.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing. He's shooting like something like 6 shots a game right now, and almost all of them are 3-pointers. So his threes are strong. He's hitting a good amount of threes. I want to say it's like 1.6 off the top of my head. And then he's getting, his defensive stats are more or less in line with career norms based on the amount of minutes that he's getting. So the thing that's not in place here is his shot attempts. And so what it says is, again, Powell has showed up, and now Powell has, does kind of a dual thing where he's a good ball mover, but he's also a guy that needs to shoot the ball. So there may be less shots even than there were in previous years. Again, this is a Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge not being able to distribute issue. You have a spot up, knockdown 3-point shooter. His shot attempts are a function of the way the offense functions. And so the issue with Green is that you just hope that his percentage of shots taken as threes doesn't go back to normal, where it's about 60% of his shots taken are 3-pointers. Right now it's at about like 75, 80. If that happens, if he normalizes without taking any more shots, then his current top 120 value in 8-cat leagues on the season and top 90 or top 100 value in 9-cat leagues on the season, which, by the way, those are must-own in 12-team leagues, those numbers will start to slip. If he just simply takes more shots and then keeps his amount of 3-pointers attempted in the same place, then he'll score more points, and he'll actually kind of get closer to the projections that we had for him in the Bruski 150, which would be kind of top 80, top 70, for 9-cat on a per game basis, and top 108-cat on a per game basis. And as a guy that could probably stay healthy, he might even finish a little bit better than those numbers in a cumulative sense.
The thing that unnerves me just a little bit is that his steals are at 0.7 right now, which would be his lowest since 2011. And his blocks are at 0.6, which would actually be his lowest since 2010. Why are those numbers down?
Those numbers are down mostly as a function of his minutes. Let me pull up his numbers here real quick.
His minutes are also the lowest in 3 years.
That's the biggest issue for him. But you look at those numbers, and he's mostly like a steal and a block per game guy. 0.8 and 1.0 blocks and steals in an average of 24.8 minutes. Right now, he's averaging that amount of minutes, and his numbers are indeed down. He's at 0.6 and 0.7 respectively for this year. And that, though, that's not killing his ranking. If he was playing the 27 minutes per game that it seems like he could play, he's, going to be close to a steal and a block per game. I'll agree, though. His defensive numbers are down, but then, looking at his 3-point numbers, he's right there. He's shooting 42.3% from deep this year. He's got his 1.7 3-pointers per game, despite just 3.9 attempts, and only 5.3 attempts per game from the field. And this is what makes it hard, is so you turn on your stat tracker and you're like, how do you average 5.3 shots a game? Well, you have some games where you have 4, and you have some games when you have 6, and if you go 1 for 4, it's like, oh, Danny Green got me 2 points, 2 boards, a steal and a block. And you're like, God, that's terrible. How do I deal with that? But he's still ownable in 12-team leagues.
Oof, man alive.
It's ugly. And so my answer was, I don't think we're going to see Danny Green from a couple years ago. Like, I think that he can maybe improve his field goal attempts, and then, you know, he has such a good fantasy stat set that he can improve those rankings, but it's just going to be ugly. You have to believe in the math to own him. Because otherwise, if you look at the box score, you're going to say this isn't worth it.
Close your eyes, for goodness sake. In the late game, the Knicks kind of took a knee with Rose and Melo both out, and JaVale McGee going full Shaq and a fool on everybody by dunking 8 times. And then, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of a story there. The minute distribution was goofy at best. I don't know what you can really take away from this ball game other than that, you know, Derrick Rose is starting to miss time. I mean, is that this is like me digging hard. Justin Holiday had a really nice ball game with everybody else out. So maybe that's something you keep an eye on for games where half the team is on the shelf.
Yeah, we're not going to like go revenge game ? And say the same joke every single time there's somebody that plays their old team. But Justin Holiday did get a chance to, you know, stick it to his old teammates. 6 steals, 1 block, 2 threes, you know, 15 points, 2 board 3 assists. Might as well read the whole line. That's when we say he's kind of a stat magnet. That's what we mean with him. And so it's not too hard to see where, you know, Derrick Rose goes out, you know, these Knicks, maybe they start to lose that 14-12. Tanking's not really in the cards for them. They're probably headed more towards a playoff push than anything. You'd be looking at, does Derrick Rose get seriously hurt and miss a lot of time? And in that case, I would be picking up Holiday as a speculative ad. Brandon Jennings would be the kind of the glitzy must add guy.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, and finally he had a decent kind of stat line. I actually had Jennings in my top 150 for the year, kind of predicting a Rose injury, and not even a big one. Just Rose is injured for 30 games or something
here and there. 4 games, 5 different times. That adds up,
right? And Jennings has he doesn't have a great stat set, but it's not terrible either. He can get pretty hot pretty fast. So. Am I looking at a speculative ad of Brandon Jennings? I mean, if I need a point guard, I would be looking at a speculative ad for Brandon Jennings. If I don't need a point guard, I'm not worried about it.
We also saw kind of quiet games from both Joakim Noah and Kyle O'Quinn. That's a position battle that we've been monitoring a little bit because O'Quinn had kind of a fat breakout game earlier this week, but it just seems, you know, Aaron, there's such a select few guys in the NBA that can do it in 18 to 20 minutes a night where, you know, the good games are going to be nice, but the bad games could really be bad because they're just not out there enough. And O'Quinn's sort of sitting right on that cusp for me where if he could even get up to 22 every night, I think I would trust it. But at like 19 minutes a game, it's still kind of hard to see how it pans out on a nightly basis. It convinced me one way or the other.
You know, I wouldn't measure this game. The Warriors do things to teams that no other team can do. And you know, a bulky sort of slow a foot guy, you know, like Kyle Quinn would theoretically get benched against this kind of a team. And, you know, Willie Hernan-Gomez, he's not exactly like fleet of foot or anything, but he does add a little bit different element as far as playing a little bit higher above the rim. And that's kind of where you might attack the Warriors is above the rim because that's what they don't have. But it just, you know, there's too much stuff that happens with the Steph Curry, the Klay Thompson, and the Kevin Durant coverages to measure O'Quinn on this game. It does remind us all of his downside. So there'll probably be a little bit of panic out there. I think he's still a must-own guy. He is still giving you late-round value in about 18, 19 minutes per game. So as long as he keeps up his current per-minute numbers and, you know, there's not too many flaws there, then he's going to be worth owning. Now, again, injury risk, and he could completely get booted from the rotation. We've seen it happen before. But the upside's there. Joakim Noah is basically done. That's the worst contract of the summer so far. And so that alone should almost guarantee him the minutes, you know, the 20 minutes he needs to be a late round value. And, you know, who knows, maybe he hits pay dirt and gets 25. That's all he. That's why he was ranked so high like 3 years ago in the Bruski 150. Is he has a great stat set, and he can leverage that into some big time fantasy value.
All right, let's lightning round some questions. You ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Hey guys, I made a trade recently. Wanted your thoughts. I gave up DeMar DeRozan and Ricky Rubio for Paul George. What do you think? I like it.
Yeah, DeMar DeRozan and Ricky Rubio for Paul George. I do like that. That's taking the best asset. DeMar DeRozan is a top 25 guy. Paul George is a top 12 guy.
Easy enough. Second question from the same user. This is Jalen. What do you guys think about Avery Bradley's play so far? Jalen says, I asked Vince earlier this season. He said he thought Bradley would peter out a little bit, but he's still playing great. So where do we stand on Avery Bradley in 20 seconds?
Yeah, I think he's going to keep it up. He's taken 5 steps forward offensively. Nothing to worry about. You know, the sell high window shut, but he's a solid top 50 asset going forward.
Thoughts on Otto Porter and Kelly Oubre, since they're both lately playing a decent chunk of minutes?
Yeah, I don't think they're on a seesaw. I mean, maybe in the short term while Bradley Beal's healthy. But Kelly Oubre's got the hearts of the local media, and that's usually either team-directed or reality-directed or a little bit of both. And I think there's a little bit of both right now. You're going to see Bradley Beal eventually get hurt. That would open a door for Kelly Oubre. He might carve his own 26, 27 minutes per game out. You want to see if you're an Oubre backer, you know, other guys get injured. You don't want to root for injuries, obviously, but that's the way that he's going to get his utilization up. But, yeah, I've got him in a lot of teams. And the early returns have been better than I thought they would be.
12-team head-to-head, 9-category league. Pick 2 out of the following 3 for long-term value. Gary Harris, TJ Warren, Josh Richardson.
Gary Harris.
I feel like Gary Harris is a definite in there.
Here's the thing, though. Josh Richardson has like 0 impediments to his value. He's also a guy that's proven kind of more than Gary Harris in his time in the league. So, and that sounds crazy to say, I know, but he's been a top 59 cat guy. And so Gary Harris, I think, is probably the better basketball player. But, you know, Gary Harris does have quite a few guys around him that could keep his value down. It's close. If you want to pick talent over situation, I could understand that. And there is one risk to Richardson, that is that the Heat get so bad that his efficiency starts to go away. And efficiency has been his calling card in fantasy leagues. So it's going to be close. I'm gonna stick with Richardson here. It's tight. It's really tight. But I'm going to go Richardson and then Harris, and then at a distant third, like really distant third, TJ Warren.
Should I drop Sean Kilpatrick to pick up Chandler Parsons?
No.
Any news on Wilson?
That's tough, right? That's a tough call right there.
Well, I mean, Chandler Parsons has sort of an interesting stat set, but he can't stay on the floor. So, I mean, how long do you wait on?
I guess I need to know how much depth there is in his league, if he can follow up with that, because I mean, Chandler Parsons' upside is top 50 if everything goes well, you know, and Richardson might not, or pardon me, Kilpatrick might not touch that. He could be a top 75 guy the rest of the way, you know, in the event that, you know, or top from now until the end of the year, top 75 guy. And that's counting the February and the March and the April where he's going to get a lot of workload. So that's really the question here is, you know, can Kilpatrick give him enough right now to get him through to the good stuff?
Should I stash Alex Len, given the fact that Tyson Chandler still seems to be playing 30 minutes, but feels like in the long term he won't be?
Len.
I could wait on this. I think I could wait, honestly. It seems like he's
just to see where it goes. Or you mean like wait with him on the wire?
Wait with Len on the wire. Because, I mean, you know, is anybody else racing out to stash him right now? I feel like you're kind of jumping the gun to pick him up in the middle of December, when it feels to me at least like Chandler could kind of hang on for another month or two.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I'm trying to in my head work out the like, is it a competitive league where you're looking for upside and everybody grabs the upside guys, and you've got to act now. But yeah, you're right. There's going to be this lull here for Len, and we can't predict the Tyson Chandler injury right now. We can say that he's likely to get hurt at some point or take time off.
Right.
But for the next month, I think that he probably isn't a great asset.
Here's an interesting question, and it's going to be tough for you to knock this one out in 20 seconds, but do your best. 8-cat dynasty league, Jokic or LeBron James?
Jokic.
Love it. All right, you kept it under 20 seconds. We got a bot in our chat room too, so
are they from Tokolo or wherever?
No, it's telling us to research the pineal gland, and I'm telling you have that you have a third spiritual eye. If it's anything like Bruski's whispering eye, I want no part of it.
Wait, is it, they say it's a pineal gland? Is that what it is? And then they said the what eye?
The pineal gland. This is like we're getting some seriously weird bot friendlies lately. Do you think Marvin Williams is worth keeping in a 12-man, 12-cat league? That's a lot of cats.
I don't care what the cats are. It's yes. I've seen a lot of, for whatever reason, there's like this no Marvin Williams love out there in fantasy world. Like they'll like find any excuse they can. Don't pick up Marvin Williams. He's been a top 50 player for the last 3 months, but yeah, don't pick him up. He sucks. And I'm like, what? Like top 50? This is not hard. It's a ranking. It's right there. It's like on a piece of paper. You don't have to look that hard for it. He's good. And then this year, he has the knee thing, and yeah, he has been kind of slow out the chute. But like, are we really thinking his role changes? I can't see it. Like, he's going to be a 28-minute per game guy. He's going to be a top 75 guy in 9-cat leagues at a minimum, and then he's going to be top 90, top 100 at worst in 8-cat leagues. So, I mean, unless these categories are like way out there, and they're like all of his deficiencies, and he's dragging you down further in those additional 3 categories, I just don't see it. I think he's a must-own guy.
How long do you counsel patience with Kent Bazemore?
I'm the perfect guy to talk to about this. I have quite a few Kent Bazemores, and I'm definitely waiting through this week, and I'm probably waiting through the next week too. I mean, we've seen Kent Bazemore kind of go through these spells in the past, and the fact of the matter is they gave him a ton of money, just a ton of money, and they're not going to just ditch him on this. His knee has been an issue over time. This rest, we saw this exact scenario last year where he was putting up top 75 value. His knee acted up. He had like 2 to 3 weeks of crappiness and then got back right on to the top 75 wagon. And that was that. So I think that's a similar situation to what we're seeing right now, hopefully for him, for us. So as far as patience goes, yeah, I mean, top 75, you're not going to find that on the wire very much. And here's the other thing is we haven't seen him really expand his game. This team is one that, you add Dwight Howard to it and it really kind of screws things up. It's not Dwight's fault even. You just have more offensive responsibility required of Paul Millsap. You have Dennis Schroeder out there who is a good stats, bad player type of a situation. And it's, you see Paul out there kind of gripping the ball like, okay, hey, we can't let this kid shoot every single time. So I'm going to have to take more shots. And it's just out of balance right now. And balance is so important. So Cal Korver's not getting any younger. The rookies aren't ready to play. Kent Bazemore, his spot's going to be fine. Tabo is the guy that is really benefited the most out of this situation because his stabilizing influence is turning into stats. That might be something that's detracted from Bazemore a tiny bit. But really, I mean, Tabo's a kind of an injury-prone guy in his later years now. He's going to rise. Bazemore will be a top 75 player at the end of the year, no matter what. And so you just got to be patient.
Patrick, by the way, reminded us that Pinchot, who we were talking about earlier in the program, was Surge, the gun runner in Beverly Hills Cop. That's a good call. He was. That's an awesome film. Eric Hall was offered Damian Lillard for Kawhi Leonard. That's a no-go. You keep Kawhi, right?
Yes, you tie your arm to the radiator, and then you don't go near the accept button.
I mean, I figured I could just handle that one myself, but I wanted to make sure I didn't do anything crazy. You traded away Giannis Antetokounmpo and Eric Gordon for Russell Westbrook and Rob Covington. Is this a good trade?
What's the format?
Yeah, that's pretty heavily format dependent. I've got to think.
If it's a 9-cat, I mean, here's the thing: in 9-cat leagues, they're both pretty damn toxic. The hard part is with that kind of if it's a roto league, you know, these guys that are having these massive turnovers, they're like the equivalent of Andre Drummond or DeAndre Jordan in free throws. Like that's a 1 in that category.
Yeah,
for turnovers. So that's one thing to look at here. The other thing is if they're equally as toxic, you know, you almost then take it and make it an 8-cat league is the way that works. Right now, Giannis is the 3rd-ranked player in 9-cat leagues on a per-game basis. And then you got old Russell Westbrook is way down the list at 26.
9-cat head-to-head, he has now clarified.
So now he has Russell Westbrook and Giannis. And here's the thing with Westbrook. He can't keep playing the way that he's playing.
Yeah.
And it's not good for his fantasy value. People think that more is better, but it's not. Efficiency is better. He's at 42% shooting on 24 shots per game.
Yeah. I think I'd rather have the Giannis side of this trade.
I would too, but I'm going to say this, like if Russell can just tweak it a little bit, and it's not going to be easy with Oladipo on the sidelines, but if he could tweak it a little bit, I think he could be the better asset. Now, I guess another question is this guy punting at all? Because if he's punting field goal percentage, that changes things quite drastically.
Ended up with Russ and Covington, so you're guaranteeing yourself about 40 misses a night between those two teams, but you know, some pretty good other stats. We'll keep moving along. Do you think Ben Simmons is going to play in January is the next question.
Sure feels like it. I mean, if January means January 31, it sure feels like it. But not kidding. I mean, that's not that far away, but he's on the court in tennis shoes. He's, doing stuff. And you know what? Young players can heal pretty quickly in ways that doctors aren't able to predict, unless we could get Dan Besbris' wife on the show and she could talk about
it wouldn't help. She's a neurologist. She'll just find out if they're all crazy. Thoughts on Rodney Hood and Wilson Chandler for Trevor Ariza? Oh, I'd love to have the Ariza side of that one. 9 by the way.
Wait, what was it again? I was just thinking of your wife diagnosing NBA players.
Oh, she'd have a field day. But she's not a psychiatrist, so I shouldn't be that clear. She would be diagnosing like severe neurologic issues. That's probably not a good thing. You don't want to, much as she is an outstanding physician and a wonderful human being, if you're sick, you don't want to be seeing my wife. That's probably not good for you. Rodney Hood, Wilson Chandler is one side, and Trevor Ariza is the other side.
It's Ariza's side because Hood is barely a late-round guy when the Jazz are at full strength. It's not his fault. He's got a bad stat set, and he's a great player. Yeah, nice Trevor Ariza all the way.
Nice trade, Scott. Ariza's been a top 30 guy for a lot of the season. He's been amazing.
He does it every year.
And he's even better because he's making shots this year.
What's crazy is he went through like a 2 to 3 year lull of being like a toxic asset. And then it was just like, oh, by the way, I'm back.
I'm back, baby. Now that we're running again, I don't have to worry about slowing down. And he's shooting 45% this year. It's like nothing can stop him. He is a great asset. He's unbelievable. And he doesn't turn the ball over ever, which is just his magic in that. He's the 26th ranked player by average so far this year, and he's 21 by totals because he's playing every damn night, even with back spasms. So he was a guy that I tried to get in all of my roto leagues, and I pretty much did. There was a league, I think I've told this sob story, where I was one pick away from being able to do an Ariza Gorgie Jang pairing at a turn, and that fell apart because somebody took Gorgie right before he got to me, and I ended up with somebody much worse. But that was going to be like my low turnover high.
I had him so high, the Gorgie Jang ranking. I am so high, like way higher than anybody else. And I had this choice. It was like, do I take him ridiculously early, or do I wait around and still take him fairly early? But no joke, in every dang fantasy league I'm in, somebody either had my list or liked him as well and took him a good round or two early.
It's not. I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. It seems quite reasonable that somebody had your list. I went through the same thing with a lot of my stuff where I thought, man, I could take this guy, or I could wait and he'll probably slip. But then pretty much every time he didn't get back to me, and that's how I ended up with a bunch of injured guys. And I feel like you did too, because we were all going through the same thing. It was like, I could probably take this guy in like 15 picks, and every time that guy got snatched. So we went and we got somebody that was going to miss 8 games to start the year. And now all of our teams are probably getting pretty good.
Yeah, everybody's getting healthy, and that's that's good for the rankings.
All right, so let's keep moving. We're actually almost done with the lightning round, and then we can wrap this bad boy up and put a bow on the week of Fantasy NBA today. By the way, give us a follow on Twitter at Aaron Bruski, at Dan Besbris.
I want to see more ratings.
Yes, more ratings. That's really what we've been hammering this week, and we're up from like 0 to 5, I think, over this week, which is not nothing.
It's good, and I just want to see gradual incremental improvement. A rating or 2 a day.
I think that's pretty reasonable. Let's see if we can't get up to like 7 or 8 by the end of the weekend, and then we're really in business. So again, use your podcast app on your iPhone. That's the way to find it. Search for Fantasy NBA Today, the podcast, and then you can review it there and give us a nice rating. We will appreciate it forever. You don't have to pay us a single cent. A rating is our currency right now. So let's get that done over the weekend. Lightning round here to close it. We talked about Marquise Chris. We talked about Justin Hamilton on Monday, but I guess we can bring him back up. Someone would like the Bruski update on your boy J-Ham.
Yes. Okay. So J-Ham goes off the grid and then all of a sudden has migraines. He had one of the worst concussions I've seen in a long time. In Minnesota, he was supposed to be this take down the stretch and must-add guy, and he came out gangbusters in the first couple games, and then he hit the back of his head on the floor in one of those like really, really like just you're like, oh wow, that guy, he's clearly knocked the hell out. And then of course the Minnesota Timberwolves were out. There was they had one beat writer and their season's almost over. He's already planning vacation. They didn't even update on his status for the longest time. And then lo and behold, maybe 10 days later, they said, oh, he's got a concussion or something. It was really just the worst reporting on an injury that I've seen in a while.
And that's where my wife would have actually come in handy.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think we did this a couple times last year where it was like, I wouldn't be surprised if, and then if goes and happens, like if he got hit in the head, and you're seeing this with NBA teams, they're not calling TJ Warren a concussion. They're not calling, Austin Rivers a concussion. They're calling it like a mild bump on the head or, whatever they coin it as. Migraines is probably one that they're coming up with now.
I hate that.
I just wouldn't be surprised if he had some sort of a concussion, and maybe that was even why they, had that interest in Donatas Motiejūnas. And so I'm a little bit, I'm not as worried about his play as much as I'm worried about, did he get another bump on the head, and has that really taken him 5 steps back? But as far as his play goes, let's see how long these migraines last. And I'm still holding him everywhere because you don't get top 75 upside very often, especially in the leagues I'm playing in. So I would understand if you did drop him for another player. I wouldn't hold it against you because you can't listen to me on everything, and it looks bad for J-Ham right now. But I'm just saying I haven't dropped him. That's all I'm going to say. I haven't dropped him. We'll see how it goes.
All right, last 5 questions, and at 20 seconds apiece, 100 seconds, and then we're done. Will Kentavious Caldwell-Pope rebound anytime soon? I actually thought he's been okay so far this year.
Is it like rebound on the glass or like rebound in terms of his play?
Maybe
no. It's probably he's gonna be fine.
Yeah, he's had a couple of slightly down games, but really not even that many because he had 10 points, 7 assists, and 2 steals 2 games ago. He just kind of had one bad game in Dallas. That was sort of a low-scoring, ugly ball game. So yeah, I think he's fine. Do we still value Larry Nance above Dwight Powell?
Yes. No questions asked.
Will Philly or Milwaukee trade Greg Monroe or change Joel Embiid's minute outlook? I have both, and it's killing me.
They will trade Greg Monroe, and they will continue to give Embiid as many minutes as he can handle.
Although it sounds like he's gone from probable to questionable for tonight, so they may be going classic 76ers style and
never trust their injury reports.
Yeah, kid gloves once again. Although, hey, I heard Nerlens Noel is probable, so that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm actually okay. Here's a question for you, and I'll give you 30 seconds on this one. I'm starting Nerlens Noel, even though there's probably going to be a minutes limit. I don't care. I'm starting him. Where do you stand on that one?
Look, it's hard to make a recommendation to start him because he could play 18 minutes and it just might not be there because of rust, but he looked fine. Yeah. And to me, he might even be a better basketball player now than he was the year, last year at the end of the year or whatever you want to say. Like, players improve just by looking at the game, having time to understand it. He can sit there, after having knee surgery, and he can shoot 1 million free throws a day. He can get better touch on his jumper. He can do all sorts of stuff. So if he's healthy, I mean, I could see him coming in there and being just fine. And so, yeah, on a busy Friday night, you can start Nerlens Noel as long as you understand there's a chance he plays 17 minutes and, doesn't do that well, but he could also give you a top 50 line.
I traded away Pau Gasol for Derek Favors. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you took on the asset that is not it's an unsafe asset, and they're more or less similar producers.
Yeah, that's a dangerous one. Is JJ Barea stashed in a 12-team league?
Yes.
And then Chris, by the way, filled in some information on the pineal gland. This is not a question. We are done with the lightning round. If you don't have your questions in, we are done with those. But Chris, appreciate you filling that in. The pineal gland is a reference to Descartes. It was Descartes' bizarre theory for how to explain the connection between mind and body, and he can tell us more if we're interested. I actually feel okay with what I know right now. I think we may have. I thought we lost you for a minute there.
Was that a bot?
What? No, this is a real man explaining what the earlier person was trying to convey. I'm okay. I got enough. But thank you though, Chris. Appreciate the fact that you must have taken like a weird philosophy class in college. That's got to be it, right? Like, everybody takes that class in college, don't they?
When they go to class.
And this is one of the ones where sometimes you're like lost in a fog and you don't necessarily have to go to it. Thank you. We had nice fan participation today, filling in some notes on Family Feud, Bronson Pinchot, and philosophy. He's got a PhD, man. This guy's a doctor. Hot damn. All right, Chris. Well, you're way beyond anything that we could talk about. I mean, woof. That's some serious stuff. Send us some tweets with things that we can talk about on air. I don't even know where else to go with that one. Aaron Bruski, the founder of Hoop Ball, the former writer of the year, who now has to do too many things to be anything of the year. You're the sleepless wonder of the year. Our guest every Friday, a very special live edition on this one. Thank you, as always, Aaron, for taking a nice chunk of your day and spending it with us.
Anytime, Dan. Have a good weekend. Get some sleep yourself.
It's not happening. I've given up. I've accepted my fate. We talked about this before going on air. If you just accept that you're never going to sleep again, it makes it a whole lot easier to never sleep again. This was Fantasy NBA Today, the week in conclusion. He's Aaron Bruski. I'm Dan Besbris. Follow us on Twitter. Rate the show on iTunes if you have a moment. We'd appreciate it forever and ever. And we'll be back with you with the Fantasy NBA Today on Monday. Aaron will be back with you on Sunday, the premium waiver wire show. Go to hoop-ball.com, click on the premium tab if you want to get a piece of that action. And we're still shooting for the 26th, the Belly Bustin' Bruski box score breakdown. That's our goal. It's not set in stone, but that's what we're aiming for. We'll try to give you guys a late Christmas present on that front. And get ready for some more fun and exciting guests here on Fantasy NBA Today as this show moves again towards a lot of bigger picture stuff as well. Thank you to Movie Dude, who tells me I look like a member of the Doobie Brothers with my beard. I think that's a compliment. It may or may not have been, but I'm running with it. So, everybody, enjoy your China Grove this weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.